Not quirky, not featurey, not weird, or special, or exciting in any way at all. That's what Doug Demuro said about this car, the 2020 Toyota Corolla Hybrid. And today, I'm going to show you why he's wrong. Now over on More Doug Demuro, he went ahead and did a video on this 2020 Corolla, and while it was pretty well done, I think he's really missing a lot of the cool parts of this Corolla. He said it's basic transportation for basic people. I actually disagree in a lot of ways. He described this car as a vehicle for people who leave the license plate frame on of the dealer when they leave the lot, and I think he's being a little condescending there because yes, while it's not his usual Ferrari or Lamborghini or Bugatti, the Corolla is actually a really special and interesting car. I actually really like the design on this 2020 Corolla Hybrid. In the front, you've got these really angular and aggressive standard, by the way, LED headlights with LED driving lights. In the rear, standard LED tail lights. It's a pretty good looking car. And one of my favorite features is down here. Now these are hubcaps. When's the last time you saw a hubcap on a car? But they hide something that's pretty neat. So if I go ahead and insert my tool into this little groove here, and I've got it covered with a rag so I don't damage anything. And then I should just be able to slide it, wiggle it around a little. Come on, there you go. There we go, check that out. You actually have a pretty cool looking wheel here. It's silver and it's actually a really not a bad rim design. Typically when you pull off these hubcaps, there's some nasty black steel wheel, but not in the case of the Corolla Hybrid. So if you wanna make your car look a little bit sportier for absolutely nothing, just go ahead and remove these hubcaps. I kind of felt he was being a little cheeky about this interior too, but really, it's a great interior. First of all, yes, there's a lot of black, but there's also a lot of soft touch materials up here on the dash. It's nice and squishy. You have push button start, which is good, a decent armrest here, and the seats that are actually pretty comfortable. Something that's really cool in this Corolla is a digital instrument cluster. That's right, this one's 25 grand as tested, and you have a really high resolution digital instrument cluster. Well, part of it's digital. So the tachometer is all analog. The fuel gauge, that's analog as well. Same with the temp gauge. But inside with the speedometer and all sorts of different settings and cool things you can view, it's all digital. Now, some of the cool things I can see are real-time power distribution. So whether or not I'm using the hybrid system, how much the battery level is at. The video in question is titled "The 2020 Toyota Corolla is a Car." And yes, technically he's right. It is a car. But in the video, he describes the Corolla as being not much more than basic transportation to get you essentially from point A to point B. And that's where I think he's wrong, because I think the Corolla is actually super interesting, especially this one. And this is the same one he had. It's the Corolla Hybrid. Now this is a 1.8 liter four-cylinder. It develops 121 horsepower and about 100 pound-feet of torque, and that's total system output, because this is the same power plant that you'd find in the Toyota Prius, and it's actually quite interesting. A cool thing when you lift the hood on this Corolla here is, well, the engine in general. I mean, usually when Toyota or Lexus does their hybrids, they cover everything in a huge black piece of plastic or some kind of shroud, so you have no idea what's going on underneath it. Not in the Corolla Hybrid. There's no engine cover. You get the cool Toyota blue badge up here letting you know it's a hybrid, but you also have access to all the components unshielded. I think that this car is an interesting place to drive along in, because think about it. You've got the gas engine, you have an electric motor, and they have to work in tandem with two completely different set of skills to get you down the road seamlessly. Sometimes when you're cruising along like I am right now at 45 miles an hour, the car will disable the gas motor altogether and you'll be running on pure electricity. And then it's fun to see how far you can go on EV alone. And then when you have to accelerate, the gas engine kicks in and so does the electric motor. And at low speeds, that instant torque of the electric motor means you cruise along pretty darn quick. The main aspect of this interior is this touchscreen display. It's actually an 8-inch display, and it's probably one of the best in the business. Toyota used to have a great display, and then they made it pretty rough in terms of usability, and now it's back to being great. You've got your standard buttons down both sides, and it's easy to use. Bluetooth is fast to hook up, plus the resolution is really impressive, and it's got my favorite feature of all time. And this is a feature that is gone from so many new cars, but it's got a tune knob. That's right, so I can actually tune the radio to the exact channel I want. I don't have to push some little virtual button a million times. For 2020, the Corolla Hybrid is only available in one trim, the LE. And even still, for $23,000 starting before destination, you get a lot of really advanced tech. So like I said, you got these standard LED headlights. You also have this pretty cool grille. Now it's much bigger and more aggressive than grills of the past. And you also see the integrated bumper. You can see where the crash bar starts here and actually feel the foam behind the grille. Doug is right from the standpoint that, yeah, probably some of the people buying this car aren't car guys or gals, aren't that into, driving pleasure. And from a performance standpoint, not a lot happens when you floor it. But you can probably tell I'm a nerd by the glasses and the fact that I have no physical prowess whatsoever. And I actually think that this car is fun to drive because of the tech behind it. On the steering wheel, you'll notice a few buttons that are kind of unusual for a $25,000 car. And that's right, this car comes standard with the Toyota Safety Sense 2.0 suite of collision avoidance systems. Now, what does that give you? Well, I've got my cheat sheet here, but it gives you pre-collision warning and automatic braking, lane departure warning with assistance. It gives you dynamic cruise control, so adaptive cruise control where you can set the distance to the car in front of you. It's got automatic high beams. It's got lane tracing when you have your cruise control on, which will help you stay in the center of the lane. It even has road sign assist, so it scans the horizon, looks for road signs such as stop signs or do not enter if it thinks you're going to go into an area you're not supposed to be or if you miss a stop sign. The hybrid system and the battery is so seamlessly integrated into this Corolla hybrid. It's awesome. Now, because it lives underneath the rear seat, it means you don't lose any trunk capacity, which is huge in my book. I hate having these batteries that intrude into the rear and it means that you can't put as much stuff in, but this has the exact same capacity as the standard gas-powered Corolla. You do lose one thing, which is kind of funky. You lose your spare tire. So instead of having a full-size spare, you just have an inflation kit. And you can actually see the cutout where the wrench should go and a lot of the tire changing stuff should go, but instead, no, you just get your little inflator with a thing of goop to reinflate your tire. Now, because the battery is underneath the rear seat, it means you get all the benefits of having a Corolla, which is a lot of usability. That means I can come back here and actually fold the rear seats down completely flat. So I have a lot of space to put stuff and Corolla things that you guys need. It's also a fun game to see the highest MPG you can get. So far I'm getting 55.8 on average, which is incredible on this short little journey. And I like to see how high I can get it to go. The point is that it's not a boring place to spend time. You can really, if you think about it from a kind of nerdy standpoint, really enjoy driving this car and feeling the electric motor and the gas engine work seamlessly. Because it's incredible that when the gas engine disengages, you can't tell, and when it re-engages, you also can't tell. Granted, the rear end of the car is not the most exciting of designs, but it does have some really cool usability features. For example, check this out. There's a plastic plate down here on the top of the bumper in front of the trunk that's for an important purpose. You see, when you're carrying big heavy loads and luggage and stuff into the trunk and you accidentally rub it against the bumper, you don't want it to scratch or paint. Instead, you'll hit this little scuff panel that won't damage the actual bodywork. The other funny thing back here you'll see is you've got this little exhaust pipe. And on a hybrid, it's very rare you see an exhaust pipe at all. But on this one, it just pokes out and then sticks down. It's very noticeable. Right below that 8-inch display, you'll see a nice feature for the price point. Automatic climate control. Now it is one zone only, but I can just simply set the temperature, click auto, and it will find the fastest way to reach your ideal, well, comfort level. There's not a whole lot to talk about in the backseat of the Corolla, but it's actually a very comfortable place to spend time. I've got a lot of knee room here. I've got a lot of headroom here, and I have one map pocket in the back of the passenger seat, but not the driver's seat. Now, what Toyota did do really well, because they know Americans, is cup holders. Back here, I actually have 4 cup holders. One in this door, 2 in the middle here, and then 1 on the other door. So you're not gonna go thirsty if you're in the backseat of a Corolla. I like what Toyota did with the side profile on the Corolla hatchback, especially this little side sill down here, which kind of protrudes, but it's pretty sporty. Now, one thing that is pretty funny is to keep this window frame design, they had to pull out some stops here and there that are a little maybe chintzy. For example, you get this little window it's not actually a window, it's just here to complete the profile design. And actually, you get the same thing in the front here. Once again, like this fake little corner window. So from a distance, it looks right. It would look weird if the door just stopped here and the door stopped back there. but it would be nice if these were actually glass. Some really fun stuff that you can display within this infotainment screen. Well, there's an eco page that tells you your trip information and your range, and there's also an energy display. So if the one in here is not big enough and you want to see more precisely exactly where the power is going with the electric motor and the battery, you can on the screen here. Now let me go back and show you something pretty neat. This Corolla hatch has an estimated range of 627 miles right now, and this is after we've driven it about 25-30 on this tank full. So over 650 miles estimated from what we've been doing on this Corolla in terms of mileage, which is incredible. Think about how long that is and how irregularly you're going to have to fill up the fuel tank. Now what is pretty cool is a lot of the times you'll see CVT equipped vehicles that have paddle shifters or a manual mode on the shifter, not in the Corolla hybrid. It knows that it's not a sports car. It knows that it's never really going to be shifted manually. So what they give you instead is a park reverse neutral drive. That's all the same as any other car, but they also give you a B. So B is for when you're going down a steep slope. It's a little bit additional braking force. It's kind of like shifting a car into a lower gear for when you're going down a really steep hill. It also increases the regenerative force for the battery. The 2020 Corolla may not seem as interesting as a Ferrari or a new Bugatti, but in some ways I actually think it's more interesting because they have to include all this packaging, all this tech into a car that starts at about $23,000, and it gets 52 mpg combined. 52! That's a pretty darn interesting number for the price point and the ease of use of the car. Overall, I don't think it's just basic transportation. I think it's more than that. I think this is a fantastic little car with a lot of cool features and even some interesting quirks. As always, I'm Tommy with the Fastlane Car. Go back to TFLcar.com and leave your comment below. What do you think of this review? Do you think I'm right or do you think Doug's right? Thanks for watching.